I'd like to call this meeting of the Legal and Finance Committee for the City of Rapid City to order at 12:30 p.m. on June 1st. And first up is roll call and determination of quorum.
Drew?
Here.
Lehman? Here. Nordstrom?
Here.
Weifenbach? Here. Solomon? Stroman? Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Robin. Next up is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Lehman, second by Weifenbach. All in favor?
Aye.
And the agenda is adopted. General public comment, a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. I have no slips for general public comment. Is anybody here for that? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so general public comment is now closed. We go on to consent items. Public comment is now open on items 1 through 17. Once again, I have no slips, so public comment is now closed. The committee may now remove any items from the consent items that they'd like for separate consideration. Lance Lehman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to remove item 10.
So noted. Richie Nordstrom?
Item 3.
Okay, then I have a couple items. I would like to remove 7, 10, and 12. Oh, excuse me, 16 also. Okay, so there we go. 3, 7, 10, 12, and 16. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? With the
moved.
by Weifenbach, second by Lehman. All in favor? Aye. Human Resources, item number 3, authorize staff to negotiate with Gallagher Consulting to enter into an agreement for a non-union compensation study to be completed in 2022. This is continued from the May 11th, 2022 Legal and Finance meeting. We've got Nick Strout at the podium, and Richie Nordstrom is up on deck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll allow Mr. Strout to give a presentation, short one.
Yes, very short, sure.
Yep.
Thank you, Nick Strout, HR Director. I'm here on behalf of the Director team and the Mayor to seek approval for a wage study for our non-union employees to be completed this year. We put out an RFP and we received 2 viable candidates. And so we went through a process where I involved the Director team and leaders to interview the 2 consultants, and the determination was unanimous that Gallagher would be the one we would recommend. The other company is a very fine company, just we're going to try a few things different that I think our employees are really going to buy into. And so the total cost of this would be $80,000 for the study, and it would be completed, hopefully the deadline is in November of 2022.
Richie, you still have the floor.
First, if I may make the motion to approve this item for authorization. If I get a second, you'll.
The chair will second.
Thank you. Nick, I appreciate the presentation and the email exchanges that you and I had particular interest for me, and I think the common denominator for me is in the past, so look forward to seeing this coming to fruition.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
And you're right, Richie. That was the key piece for us, is the idea that there's going to be more involvement with the Director team, the supervisory team, and the employees, so they can have a chance to buy in to the project on the front end, which will create credibility once it's complete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I accidentally shut my microphone off. But my question on this study is, years ago we had a Condrey study that laid a platform out, and we had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to create that platform. And then all of a sudden, somewhere along the line, it disappeared, and then we had utter chaos amongst the employees, union, non-union. I'm wondering what happened to that, and why did we scrap it?
The platform, are you referring to the wage scale?
Yeah, it was a wage study. It was very, very comprehensive. They spent a lot of time visiting all the departments, all the employees. I mean, we did it because we were in a quagmire of trying to figure out where everybody laid. We laid everything out. They laid out all the job descriptions and everything. And then all of a sudden, we don't use it anymore. We don't use that platform. It's called, what's called Condre.
We still have, in our non-union wage scale and our union wage scale, the structure is still the same that was with Condry and before Condry. We did a wage study in 2018 and finished in 2019 that tweaked it. But it was determined this is time to take another look at it. That was done in 2014, so that was 8 years ago that we did the Condry study. And so we attempted through my predecessor in my office and the director team to keep up with making sure our wages are attracting and retaining the talent. But we are not being able to hire and retain at the level that we need to serve our community. And so wages is continually listed as one of the reasons why people don't accept our job or leave for other jobs. So we want to have a system in place that we can have a company look at our wages and ensure that we are offering competitive wages. We did reach out to Condry in hopes that they would submit a proposal, but they're not at the point now where they have the capacity to take on new clients. The whole country is going through this same process. We heard that over and over again from consultants that we have relationships with, that they just don't have the capacity because other municipalities are doing the same thing we are. So I wouldn't say it's fair to say we're scrapping it, but we're taking another look at it.
No, I get that part. I understand that part that everybody's going. So what, is there a scope somewhere that outlines where they're going to gather this information? Who do we compete for jobs? Who do we compete with?
And that's a
Who are we
great
losing
question. When Condry did their study, they looked specifically at other Midwestern municipalities. And that's fine, but we feel that's only half of the process. We also need to look at the local private industry markets. We're not necessarily losing people to the city of Bismarck or the city of Sioux Falls. We're losing them to local companies. So it's a mix of Midwestern, similarly sized municipalities and counties, the state of South Dakota. So we're keeping in line with the governmental wages, but we also need to look locally. We need to use our local databases to make sure we're keeping up with everyone else in our region.
We spent some time on looking at the culture of the city. How does that reflect into this wage study? I mean, that's obviously I mean, if I'm looking for a job, I want to be in a place I like to work. I think I've made that
Absolutely.
point. And where are we at with that? I mean,
Well, we have Leah Braun. She's heading up our culture, and she's making great inroads. We're doing a lot of things. We're surveying our employees, seeing what else besides salary, what can we do to improve the city. And just today, we launched a wellness initiative. It's with Well Steps. It started June 1st today, and so we're really excited about offering a comprehensive wellness program, which we heard from our employees that that's important to them. So we're running dual tracks. We're letting Leah lead the charge, along with the rest of the directors, to improve culture, but we also need to have a systematic look at our wages to make sure that is where it needs to be. Because we can have the best culture and all the nice amenities and the benefits, but to your point, if the pay isn't there.
Right, I've been down this road
Yep.
with the landfill, when people tried to tell me that a wage wasn't an issue, and all of a sudden it's an issue, but I get it. I'm in agreement with the fact that we need to understand where we're at. You don't have to, I won't go down that road. I'm done, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Chair. Nick, I'm kind of a little concerned is this always the way that this is done, or is it with an outside entity coming in and doing the study, or can we do any of this internally? I think we've already kind of decided that we're having trouble retaining and recruiting employees, and we already think that, you know, we're probably going to have to raise some pay scale in order to retain and recruit new employees. Just like Mr. Weifenbach said, at the landfill, we went right after that and increased the pay scale. I just question the need of, is it necessary to go outside and spend $80,000, or is this something that we can do like you're already doing with your other resources within the city city employees?
Well, that's a great question, thank you. Currently, we do not have a compensation expert on staff. That is certainly an avenue we could go down. We have contacts at the Monument Health and at Black Hills Corporation, and they do that. You're talking a full-time salary with benefits, and then they have to buy into these same databases that these companies already have. That could be a more midterm or long-term solution. But these companies come with the credibility and the expertise to get this done hopefully this year, as opposed to trying to attract and hire a compensation analyst, have them learn our organization, and then start making recommendations piecemeal, because it would only, I assume, start out with one person. And so this is going to be a whole team of people that can take an employee group and look at them all at the same time. So we were having that discussion this morning at our department director meetings with the mayor, is could we look at something like that? And absolutely, we would need to budget it for 2023 or 24, whenever we want to do that. But doing it ourselves, we've never done it alone, to answer your first question. And this is the model that we've used as far back as people have told me. But if that's something that we want to explore, it definitely would involve hiring at least one full-time employee with a compensation background, and then give them the tools to do this internally.
I think it's pretty predictable that this consulting group, if we retain this consulting group, they're going to say that we need to increase our wages and or benefits. Are they going to give us a recommendation as to what the amount of that increase is going to be? I can pretty much guarantee they're not going to say we're paying too much.
What we would do is we would work with them to develop and identify our compensation philosophy. So they're going to come in and say, this is what the market pays for these positions. Do you want to be at 100% of market? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be 125% of market? We have to decide that for ourselves. So if we decide we want to be 90% of market with all of our jobs, then it would be up to us to identify which ones are below 90%, and then we could outline what that cost would be to get everyone to 90%. But we, being the council and the directors and the mayor, have to decide what our compensation philosophy is. They'll help us identify what works, what they believe it should be, but ultimately it's up to us to make sure that we develop one that it's comfortable with the taxpayer dollars and the salaries that we pay. Because if we want to keep up with Corp, I mean, I certainly would be happy. I know our employees would be happy, but that's going to come with a cost. And so they might be 100% of market. If we want to keep up with them, that will come at a cost. But if we're happy being 90% of market, knowing that occasionally we're going to lose to companies like Black Hills Corp, if we're okay with that, then it'll be a different cost than if we try to go for 100.
Okay. Well, thank you for that explanation.
Thank you.
I yield.
I'm going to jump here and get in on this discussion. I pretty much think I could recommend that we pay people more money if you give me $80,000. You know, I think I could figure that out. That's an awful lot of money, and just because we have the money doesn't mean we should spend it. We just had this done in 2019, and with the growth we're going through, I don't know how relevant this would be even in a year or two. I just can't support this. I think we are doing this too soon. I think we have to wait for another year or so to see what we really end up with growth in this city. You know, we might end up with more money, for one thing, because we just have so many businesses coming here, people living here, spending money here. Ellsworth itself will be a huge impact. So, you know, I won't support this at this time. I think it should. I think we're just jumping the gun. I think we're just doing this too fast, and we can wait. Thank you.
And
Ron
may I
Weifenbach.
respond to that?
What's that?
Thank
May
you,
I
Madam
respond to
Chair.
that?
You may say
I
something.
just have some comment, and I think that's I want to let the department directors speak for themselves, but we have issues today, and we want to try to find a systematic way to address these issues today. And so that's why we're attempting to do it this year. We know growth is coming. We know that the city's going to get bigger, and we might have to hire more people, but 2022 still presents its own problems, so I think that's why we're bringing this forward today. But I appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How many people does this encompass? I mean, it obviously doesn't encompass the fire department or the police department, right?
Correct.
They'd be outside of this?
Correct.
Okay. So how many people are we
As of
looking?
today, it's 207.
207 that are and of those 207, how many of them are exempt?
Oh, I don't know that answer.
Like department heads and that type of stuff?
Yeah, if you force me to guess without any research, 30%, 40%.
This is going to give them an opportunity to get their voices finally heard?
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, what I find as I walk through the halls and talk to some of these people is that we hire these department heads and these directors, and we pay them, and they're intelligent people, and they're highly capable of understanding. I mean, I don't want to have this fiasco again of moving all these people to the union, and their participation in this was limited. It didn't do them any good. It didn't do their employees any good. It was hard on the morale. It was hard on the directors. It was hard on everybody. I think that they have the ability to understand where they're, and I don't necessarily know if it's the pay specifically where they're at. I'm sure that has a little bit to do with it, but I think it's more of how they're getting categorized and how they're getting topped out at a certain point in time, where it's like, why would I stay after 3 to 5 years knowing that I can't go anywhere else?
Right.
I'll come here, gain the experience, and then I'll leave. So I think that's a philosophical question that the administration, and it may be the council here, but since we're not on the org chart, it's hard to understand if we should participate in that decision-making process, because I particularly believe in this era that we do need to retain people, and we do need to retain some level of institutional knowledge, and I think that's important. But as we are today, like you said, we're in this quagmire because, or I should say state of emergency or crisis or whatever it may pertain to, or how it comes down, because we simply are not listening to the people that we're paying to do the jobs. And I'm concerned about that. I'm okay if we think that, and they think that we need a study to do that, but I think they're thinking, in my mind, and I'm speaking for them, haven't had this conversation with them, but understanding my participation in the past with management and my experience with this city council, is that they feel that this might be their only opportunity to get what they need to do to get the tools to keep their environment working. I'm a little bit concerned about that, and I don't know that this resolves it or if it just puts a Band-Aid on it. It would be simple to me to say to these directors, because there's a few of them and they have all the non-union people working for them, that they could probably tell you exactly where they need to be if they were asked honestly, and then they were actually heard and they were actually participating, that their decisions could be made at their level. If they gave them the ability to make those decisions and run their departments, would we be better off versus bringing somebody in from an outside? And I understand the part of the world that is political, or it is, a city versus a private industry. I get all that. But talking to them on a daily basis and listening to where they're coming from, man, I'm hearing it, but I'm not sure that everybody's hearing it. And that's my biggest concern about this. I can support this if I need to, if it helps them get this done, but at the same time, I think there's a big concern on the support that they're getting to implement what they need to implement. It's like, okay, we want you to build this multi-million-dollar house, and we give them a handsaw and a hammer and say, you build this house. And then we come back and go, oh man, we better do a study on finding out why they can't build this house with this handsaw and this hammer. I guess I'll yield to my colleagues, and I'll stand to listen to their thoughts. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the IT department. Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to throw in, as a department that is somewhat siloed both within what we do and certainly within the city, there's no other department that does what we do. It has been challenging this year for me to have highly professional, people that I could not even dream to replace come to me and talk about hardships that are financial. Normally when my people come, because they're professionals and they do their job and they do it well, they come to me saying, hey, I've gone through this training, I've increased my knowledge of this subject, and I think I deserve a raise. This year marks the first time I've had people come to me and say, I'm going to have to start working another job or looking for another job. And so I think the idea that I am going to go back to them and tell them that we're not going to look at a salary study because of the fact that we may grow in 2 years, may fall on, it will be hard for them to hear. Additionally, I think that just for the good of the city, it will require me to look deep within my budget to find ways to keep the human resources that I have, because I think they provide a service to the city that, should I lose almost any of them, I would say, the service quality that I am able to provide in terms of IT would go down. So my feeling is that, I don't know what the correct answer is for the entire city, but I do think that particularly within the IT department, our salaries are probably very low. My starting salary for an IT tech is about $2.30 less than what you'd make starting at McDonald's right now. So I would strongly encourage that we actually do a salary study to try and get our non-union, our professional salaries up, and I believe that will lift the boats of all of the employees of the city of Rapid City. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to yield to the fire chief because I see him in the queue, and then I've got some additional comments after that.
Chair recognizes Fire Chief Culbertson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure we cleared it up that both police and fire do have non-union employees. The fire department has 17, which would be affected by this, and that doesn't include me. So that includes a couple gentlemen out in this office and all of our admin staff. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that. And at some point, we can do a lot of studies and look at our own departments but it's making sure that we're going to give you the information you want to see. I've sat in this seat and listened to the same, not this same council, but other councils tell us how we can't be a profit in our own department. And so that's where this outside agency, I think, can come and help us determine what truly needs to be the pay ranges for those jobs. So, because I can give you my opinion on my research, and which has been extensive, and yeah, underpaid. But are you going to accept that as gospel and what you want to hear, sir? Huh? Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chief. Back to Nordstrom, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a very good discussion, and it's a worthwhile discussion that's been needed for some time. But I just want to point out to some of the other folks that are interested in hearing this is that a lot of our departments are down several employees because of the feedback that I'm getting is because of the salaries. The other part of it has to do with the non-union folks very rarely get heard. And this is an opportunity for the non-union folks to have a voice in the process, because going back to before the Condrey study was a Hay study, and the employees did not get a voice into that study at all. And then the Condrey study came on. It was like a light came on, and everybody really appreciated the opportunity to have that presentation of what they actually do on the job. Then this last study that we just did, there was just I'm going to call it piecemeal work that was done in that study. I had to look at it a couple of times before I really kind of understood it, and I think it fell short. Then comment was made earlier about the union positions becoming, some of the non-union positions becoming union positions. Well, that was a law that was discovered, and I can yield to the city attorney's office to explain that a little bit further about how that came about, because it was explored by some folks that were looking at that particular law, and that's what the determination was that came out of the that recommendation is why those people were put into the union positions. and then it was their choice to stay or not be part of the union. It was their choice. Yes.
Madam Chair, I don't understand where he's going with that comment about their choice. Can you explain, can I ask him to explain that? It was the employee's choice to go to the union or not go to the union?
No, it was the law. The law said that but it was the choice of the employees to stay with the city in that position or not. Okay? So then because of all of this, shall I say, other things that were taking place, and now we have an opportunity to have the voice of the employees actually getting back to the discussion of the, to hear this. That's the piece that's really been missing for a number of years. Because when we get a chance to hear what the employees actually do and what they have to contribute to this conversation, I think it's a value that can really, really help in making the decisions and assist the consultant to come forward with a very good, constructive decision for us to undertake. Because we get to be the final arbiters of whatever that whatever this Gallagher study comes up with. So we get to make that choice at that time. So I appreciate the discussion, but I just want to make sure everybody understands why we need this, and it's definitely needed. I yield.
Chair recognizes Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a substitute motion to move this to council without recommendation.
Motion by Lehman to move this to council without recommendation, second by Weifenbach. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Aye. One opposition on that by Richie Nordstrom, and this moves to council on Monday night without recommendation from this particular committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a good discussion, and that's why these boards exist, for deliberative time that we wouldn't necessarily take. I just didn't get you out of there. Take during the council meeting itself. We go on to 7, authorize mayor and finance director to sign Journey On co-response services contract in the amount of $113,360,000. I pulled this one. I guess, does it go to the fire department? Is that who I ask? Chief Culbertson, how many people are out there in the evenings doing this type of work?
Well, I might have to call on someone else, and I'm seeing 2. 2 in the evenings. I would have to look out to our mobile medic and/or police chief for that answer.
I don't have all the numbers as to who's out every single night because I think it varies, but what I can tell you is that since December, they've handled over 3,000 calls for service that would have normally been handled by a police officer or somebody from the fire department. And we believe that's a very significant progress in this program. So hopefully that helps put it into perspective a little bit.
Well, I'm just wondering, I'm sorry that I don't know this, but, $113,000 is not to pay them? They're volunteers for the most part, or is this to stand up the program? What is that money going towards?
So for Journey On, this will be the back end. So this will be their director of operations for Journey On.
Okay.
So it allows the coordination and making sure we have the right number of staff on at the right time. So it's over a 3-year period.
Okay.
So 2.5 years,
okay.
I suppose.
So the people in the field really are volunteers?
Correct.
Okay. I see Lance is up, and Lance knows a lot more about this than I do, so I'm going to go ahead and call on Lance Lehman.
Madam Chair, I just was going to abstain from this vote, but I can answer any questions you might have, maybe better than those 2 over there. Jamie Kirsch is also in the audience, and she's part of our board, so we can probably handle this a little better.
Okay. Well, Lance, I'm going to just direct this to you, because you were on this from the very beginning, and maybe this is out of line for this particular discussion, but I understand they're looking towards doing more relief in the business area as well, too. Is that right, or is that just hearsay?
That is correct. We're trying to grow our team and have a downtown business unit focused on the businesses and residences downtown.
Boy, I bet they'd really welcome that. I think.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yes, excellent work. I look forward to watching this program grow. Now we'll go to Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your questions. The question I have is, who operates the mobile medic?
That's the Rapid City Fire Department.
That's the fire department? Okay. I got to see that in action the other night. We were outside, and a gentleman came and was telling us he was having a heart attack, but, you know, he was obviously intoxicated, and we didn't know, we weren't qualified to make that judgment. We called mobile medic. Mobile medic showed up, handled the situation. It was pretty cool to watch. I mean, versus having a big hook and ladder and 3 firemen in a cop car, you know, so it made sense. The whole
I
thing's making
appreciate
sense.
those comments. Yeah, we started that process in 2013, working through that as a single responder, and ran into many headaches with the state, but it's been pretty successful. And I would say it's our first, and this is now the evolution of that in working with Journey On and the police department and this co-response. So, yeah, the mobile medic program, I can't say enough about it.
Well, we appreciate that, Chief. If you keep running into those headaches with the state, let us know.
Yeah, we've
We
cleared
can-
up
we can-
several
we can
of them,
help.
so we're
We
good.
can help on that matter. So I just appreciate what they're doing with Journey On, and the mobile medic was kind of cool to watch him. It just so happened that we were outside when this all transpired, so thank you, and thank you to the mobile medic people, and thank Lance for
Yeah.
putting this all together.
Looking at Richie Nordstrom now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to compliment the Journey On folks as well, because the last report that I got from them is that they've answered calls, something in the neighborhood of 2,000 calls for service that have been taken care of by them, and with this co-response will be another asset to help out in that area. And if you ever get the opportunity to sit in on one of their presentations that is put on by Journey On, and they've also got a long presentation and a short presentation. So if you ever get the chance to hear the long presentation, I would highly recommend it, because it's very good, very thorough, and they explain it very well how it's working. And so I look forward to doing the co-response services as well, because if it's the trend that I'm seeing right now continues on with this co-response, it's going to answer a lot of issues that we're dealing with in the city currently. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Greg Stroman, excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. I've seen and heard nothing from Journey On except for great things that they're doing. I haven't heard one thing that has been a criticism of Journey On, and I just applaud the program, and I think we should do everything we can to support the program. I yield.
Agreed. So we have,
We all agreed?
we agreed on something, yes. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
I want to make sure everybody, this is all grant funded. There isn't a penny that's coming off of the city for these 2 positions that we're talking about today. So just wanted to make sure to throw that out, which is really cool.
Thank
It
you.
allows them to grow and hopefully grow with us and make some changes in their operations too.
So important. Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we know how Madam Chair likes grants, so that's awesome. Just wanted to give a heads up to the people in the audience, if you're out there speeding on the streets or whatever, the chief's telling me he's got a lot more time to be writing speeding tickets now, so that they've got alleviated
I have
from
heard that. I
some
read
of this
that.
stuff, so be careful out there. Watch the speed limit.
Motion approved by Nordstrom. Second by Stroman. All in favor? All opposed? And with one abstention, this motion is approved. Go on to item number 10. Approve request for property tax abatements as follows. Rural America Initiatives, a tax ID 68003 and 2019, $88,625.66. Rural America Initiatives, tax ID 68003, 2020, $119,288.90. Rural America Initiatives, tax ID 68003, 2021, total for the city of Rapid City, $326,092.76. And go to Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Kidder wanted to speak on this item, so I would like to yield my time to her.
Okay. Could you just identify yourselves and?
Yes, Rebecca Kidder, Peoples Kidder, Bergen and Robinson, Legal Counsel to Rural America Initiatives.
And Bruce Longfox, Executive Director for Rural America Initiatives.
We did submit the application with quite a bit of attached documentation. I know you don't always have time to read it, but If you're not familiar with Rural America Initiatives, they were created in 1986 as a nonprofit. They run the Head Start, which is the pre-kindergarten education for students. They recently, in 2017, acquired property, which is the subject of the abatement. They built a beautiful Head Start facility. It also serves a lot of community purpose. When they filed their deeds in 2017, the treasurer, the director of equalization, all of the divisions that are supposed to send tax notices didn't send it to Rural America Initiative's address listed on the deeds. They had sent it to an address they had not been at since 2016. We met with the county. The county did approve nonprofit status belatedly and sent us back through this process for the abatements. The documentation, we believe, shows no notices were ever given. Even through February of this year, they were sending them to a Main Street address that REI has never been at since 2016. And so because of the lack of due process, the lack of notice, REI never had notice that there were taxes being assessed, which is a requirement under South Dakota law. So they filed the request for abatement and the request for nonprofit status. The way that REI found out that there were taxes unpaid and being assessed is their accountant and banking services notified them the property was up for tax sale. Again, they didn't get that notice. So the minute they figured it out, they went and paid all the taxes this year. Obviously, over $300,000 in taxes takes a lot of money away from REI and their ability to run the Head Start and the community services that they provide. And so while we understand there are time limits for applying for nonprofit recognition and tax abatement because they never received notices, we've asked for special consideration to be able to abate these taxes. I believe it's attachment 9 to the original letter to the county, lists all the taxes that were belatedly paid this year. They were for tax years 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. So those are the years in which that 300 and some thousand were paid. We truly believe that REI, if the abatements are granted, will be able to use those funds to continue to provide excellent service to the community. As you know, they work with low-income families and provide extraordinary service even during COVID for education for the young ones. If you have any questions, Mr. Longfox is available, as am I.
Chair recognizes Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Even though it seems not typical, this is not unheard of. I mean, they had that happen with elementary school not that long ago, within the last year, that they hadn't gotten their tax notifications, and then someone bought the the property with, you know, is that, in this case, did somebody actually purchase this stamp or tax stamp or?
No, we were able to catch it before anyone bought it, so
Okay.
we're okay.
So you're not out this money then? We're just, you didn't pay the money, right?
We did,
yeah.
we did. We borrowed from our bank. And
Just
when
so
we
you
ran
make
down
sure.
there, on February 16th, we found out there was a tax certificate out.
Okay.
We got a loan and we ran down
try to
on
cover
the
for the
18th
timeframe.
and paid them, so.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, perfect.
And then we did get exempt status for 22.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah. And had you known that ahead of time, yeah, I get it all. So you operate as a nonprofit all the entire time. It's just a matter that you had gotten the building purchased, and that's what caused this, and then I got it. Okay. And I wouldn't expect, if I was in the same boat, I probably wouldn't have been looking for a tax bill either,
Yeah.
knowing that I was a nonprofit. And so I get it. And it's a nice building, by the way. It's right in my neighborhood over there. I live on the Elks, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the explanation, folks. I really appreciate it, because all we get is the standard letter from the county auditor's office, and so we didn't get to hear the backstory. So I appreciate you getting the opportunity to hear really what happened on it. And by the way, on a separate note, I really had the really appreciate the opportunity to read to the young kids that were out there that one time, and then. So that was kind of a thrill for me. So just a footnote, but appreciate the time, and thanks, folks.
Thanks, Richie.
Chair recognizes, excuse me, are you done, Richie? Yes. Okay, Chair recognizes Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to say I appreciate the explanation, too. And I think that the RAI is doing great work for our community. And if it, I guess one of the prices we have to pay is Bruce never comes to the Y anymore. But I know he's working hard, and just appreciate all you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion on this? Motion approved by Lehman, second by Weifenbach. All in favor? Those opposed? The motion carries. We move on to item 12. Authorize Mayor and Finance Director to sign resolution number 2022-043, a resolution to enter into a concessionaire agreement with Canyon Lake Resort. I believe I was the one that pulled 12. I just have a question. I think Kinsley could help me on this. Or maybe it's Tracy, I'm not sure. But it says Parks and Rec. But it's a financial question. Okay, so is this on city property? Is that why we need the concessionaire agreement?
Madam Chair, I can answer that. Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yes, this
throw darts.
this is the boat ramp dock area that's next to the Canyon Lake Resort there on the west side of the lake. And it's a concession that's been operating for some time, and Canyon Lake Resort has had that concession for a couple of lease terms.
I thought we were talking about just the resort itself as a concessionaire.
No.
Okay, all right, well, that helps clear that up. I guess I'll need a motion unless anybody else has questions. Motion approved by Lehman, second by Nordstrom. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item 16, approve revised youth city council bylaws. I'm not sure this was me. So this would go to the city attorney's office. Do we have, why are we revising the youth city council bylaws, Kinsley?
I will defer to Jennifer Utter from the city attorney's office.
Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Jennifer Utter from the City Attorney's Office, and I've been assigned to advise the Youth City Council. They also have another request up for this afternoon, and during that process, realized that the council had changed some of the requirements for the Youth City Council just a few months ago. And that all went through, and they amended their bylaws to comply with the City Council's new rules, such that all expenditures now, that's the big one, needs to come through the council for consideration. And so this was just an update of their bylaws to conform with the new City Council recommendations for their operations.
So really what we're looking at is just approving these so that we can approve the next, item 17, is that right?
Correct. And, just for their operations purposes.
That is awesome. I love the Youth City Council. They've done such great work this year. So that's all the questions from me. Looking for a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Motion to approve by Weifenbach, second by Lehman. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And the motion carries. That brings us to the end of our consent items. We go on to item 18, second reading and recommendation of ordinance number 6539. Oh, excuse me, I skipped 17. Sorry about that. Oh, I guess we don't have to do that, do we? Okay, all right, that's approved. Okay, so it was right. Okay, an ordinance amending section 15.04.030 of the Rapid City Municipal Code regarding the authority of the building official.
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Lehman, second by Weifenbach. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Alderman items, we go to 19, discuss adjusting some of the vision fund towards increasing infrastructure funding. And this was brought to us by Jason Solomon. I believe that is part of the reason Greg Stroman is here today, but we've got Lance Lehman in the queue, so Lance, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unless any of my colleagues have any objection, I'd like to make a motion to move this item to the next legal and finance agenda. Mr. Solomon made that request earlier.
Do you have a reason why he's doing that?
He wanted to be present for the conversation.
Okay. Motion by Lehman and second by Stroman to move this forward. I guess the only direction I might give the group here is to look at what they're trying to increase. I don't know if they're increasing infrastructure funding for the buildings we've already built, or infrastructure increases for the just general roads and water and all those kinds of things. I don't understand exactly what he's looking at, so I guess he should be here. Because I know that the things we've already built, like the Doll or the Journey, or some of those buildings have increases in their costs, and there's nowhere that those are funded, and this could be a source for that. So I've got Greg Stroman in the queue, and maybe he can help us understand if this is just for strict infrastructure on the city, roads and stuff like that, or to help the things we've already built. Greg?
Thank you, Chair. At the CIP meeting, we talked about the 5-year plan for government facilities, and some of the directors submitted some suggestions of what their needs were going to be for the next 5 years, and particularly we were looking at a deficit in 2027. And so then we had a discussion informally at the CIP meeting about what we could do to try to reconcile that projected deficit, and I think it's an appropriate conversation to be had at the Legal and Finance meeting, and since Jason did ask to have this item put on the agenda, I would prefer that he be here at the next Legal and Finance meeting to discuss that. And what we were talking about was some sort of reallocation in order to meet those projected budget needs for government facilities.
For government facilities, not for roads, not for any of those kinds of infrastructure needs, government facilities.
If I recall correctly, the conversation was in terms of government facilities.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up for me. Thank you. Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Alderman Stroman summarized it real well. And what we were looking for, we came to shortfalls, and some of you'd mentioned like the doll, those types of things. Things that we do in division funds, we don't plan for the costs involved, and it's like we keep going back to the general fund, and it's getting to the point where some of these projects, like in our Parks Department, especially was one we recognize that they keep getting pushed to the back burner, so it's easier. So then what happens is some of our parks start to get dilapidated, and some of the equipment gets old, just like in some of the buildings. We wanted to start to put some of the, the cost back in to get some of these things taken care of, instead of having to have them come forward every year and beg to try to fix the stuff that they're taking care of. It's almost kind of similar to the wage study thing to me. It's like these guys are in charge of it, but we don't give them the tools to take care of it.
Right.
So we're trying to address that. So I think in the reality of all, we'd be open to something that if you keep it broader, then the councils in the future can make decisions. They can say, if you take another percentage and say, we're going to use it for an infrastructure. And I'm only telling you this just in case I'm not here. That in the future,
You're going to die?
I'm not going to die, but I will be leaving the council at the end of the month. So just to keep it broader, to make it easier for those people in the future to make those adjustments, to have that thought process in mind, that when these guys come forward and they see these infrastructure needs that prior councils, including us, have created, that we had a funding mechanism in mind that said, okay, we realized that was going to cost X amount of dollars to take care of, or we weren't living in a fantasy world. So,
Yeah.
but I think he's appropriate when Jason's here to further that. So, thank you.
All right, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I better start off with saying I really beat up on the Parks Department pretty badly during the CIP, and I want to try to make amends of it some way, somehow, because my recommendation was to cut back on the Parks Department with one of my scenarios. I've got a couple different scenarios, so that's not my intent, is to beat up on the Parks Department. So we got to find another way to come up with some additional revenue for the Parks Department in some way, somehow. And this is one suggestion that's being looked at, and I think there should be some other suggestions coming forward on this as well. So I just wanted to make sure Mr. Bigler heard me say that I'm not intentionally out to sabotage the Parks Department, so I just want to find a different way to support the Parks Department. Thank you.
Maybe we should ask Lance about expanding Journey On to help him. Anyway, okay. All right, so we have a motion to move this to our next Legal and Finance. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Number 20, allow city council members and their beneficiaries to be included in the city's health insurance plan, and that is Lance Lehman. I'll go to Lance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had several people that we work with on the council ask if I could bring this item forward, so here we are, open for debate, discussion, comment. Maybe the directors can chime in on this. Maybe they shouldn't.
Ron Weifenbach?
Madam Chair, this is one of the items that I talked about initially when, and then we ran into some issues with the funding on the health care, but at the same time, it's for some of the, I'll be leaving the council, so I have no skin in the game on this one, but I think it would be, as being a councilman for 10 years off and on, I think it would be appropriate to approve this and give the people that serve on the council an opportunity. I mean, it's not like they're overpaid, that's for sure. When you do a good job and you work hard, you know, obviously there's a level of volunteerism you give to, but there's also a level that I think that if we offer this to healthcare to some people, I think it would attract a larger pool of people too, which is always fun. I mean, I know we all don't like to have races, but the races are healthy, you know, for the quality of people you get when the public gets to vet them. So I'm going to be you know, I'll be standing for moving this as an opportunity for the future councils, not me, but whoever takes these seats in the future.
Chair recognizes Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've got a health committee meeting coming up next week, and so I'm sure this will be part of the discussion that'll be taking place then at that time, and we have some, shall I say, harder numbers to take a look at. We got some recommendations for numbers for premium costs and what the city would pick up and everything. So I just want to have the opportunity to have some input from the health committee as well, because they'll get a chance to look at it in a deeper dive. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I have no say in this either, as I am also leaving the council, but I talk to people a lot that say, I don't like my job, but I can't leave it because of the health care. And health care is an important part of people's jobs, and we just don't get the pool of people, the people standing up to be elected that I'd like to see. I'd like to see more of a variety. I'd like to see people that, you know, it's usually got to be people that are self-employed or have a very understanding employer that will let a person run for office and do all the meetings. We've got, you know, on top of the regular council meeting and the Legal and Finance or Public Works, at least 4 or 5 committees that we're assigned to and several events during the month that we're expected to attend. So you have to have someone that has a very flexible schedule. And I would just like to see this as an extra benefit to maybe move some of those folks that are just really looking to serve to have one more reason that this is a good job. I've enjoyed being here. I've enjoyed making decisions. Some of it's really tough, and some of it's it doesn't feel good because people don't like you all the time. You know, and of course we all like being liked, but we need to have what? Sometimes people don't like you, Ron. But anyway, so just saying. But we all feel that. And so we need to have a couple more lures to bring in people that will run for office, you know, with their best interests at heart as well as the city. So I would support this. I don't know if it'll come to fruition while I'm in office so I can vote on it, but I sure hope so, Lance. I think this is a great idea, and I'm glad you brought it forward. So do we have a motion on this? I don't believe so. Do you have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Weifenbach, second by Stroman. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? and it passes. Excuse me, thank you. I just got a little bit discombobulated there. Anybody want to add anything that they worked on that was particularly important during the last week or so? If not, we'll just adjourn. Move to adjourn by Nordstrom, second by Weifenbach. We're adjourned.